Chess fans, in this video we will look at the game between Wesley and um, Radoslaw Wojtaszek, um, a game played at the Tata Steel Masters this year, 2017. Wesley with white played c4, the English opening, and after knight f6, knight f3, e6. Wesley chooses a setup with g3. Wojtaszek replies by d5, d4, bishop e7, bishop g2, castle, queen c2 with the aim of maybe preparing the e4 push, but also protecting the c4 pawn, c5, castle, knight c6, and black is attacking the d4 pawn with both his knight and his pawn. Have a look at this position and at the setup that black and white has chosen. What should white play here? Imagine this is a practical game. It's your move. What are the candidate moves that you would consider? And what should white play here? Okay, so the pawn is attacked, and it seems like it's a little bit difficult for black to protect this pawn. e3, for example, would probably be a mistake already, because black has the resource knight b4, and the queen doesn't want to lose touch with this square, because the knight can jump in. So for example, after queen e2, black can play c takes d, and after knight takes, e5, and the pawns are rolling, and black activates his center really quickly, and all the pieces are suddenly becoming very active. Similarly, if white tries to protect the pawn with rook d1, again black can play c takes d, and after knight takes, black can again play knight b4. This knight is also protected here by the bishop, and then e5 is probably even stronger after the queen has moved, and black again really quickly activates his center. So black is attacking this pawn, and it's a little bit difficult to attack this pawn. And also, if white starts taking with c takes d here, after knight takes and d takes, black has these super active knights. And this is probably, according to my opening book, still playable. And yeah, this pawn could become a little bit weak. So black will probably win back this pawn, and then the question is a little bit who will have the more active pieces. Okay, so played d takes c, and this is probably the strongest move in this position, but I think it's a little bit difficult to see and very interesting to look at the candidate moves. Okay, after d takes c, black made the decision to push the pawn, and white plays a3 with the plan of b4. Black tries to prevent this with a5, and white plays rook to d1. Quick question, what asset does white gain with this move? Okay, first of all, of course, the rook is attacking the pawn together with the knight, but this pawn is also protected at the moment. But the resource that white gains is that this pawn is now pinned against the queen, and it's always nice to have the rook opposing the queen. And we will see in the game how Wesley is using this asset. Wojtaszek played e5, setting up a nice center here. And now white can use the pin by being able to develop the knight here to c3. And from here the knight has a lot of nice squares. If the knight could not develop, in this position, it would already be a little bit difficult finding a way on what to do with this knight. But thanks to this tactical resource, white can simply continue his development very harmoniously. Okay, black now takes back the pawn. And we can already see the queen opposing this bishop. Maybe this bishop can be a slight tactical liability here. And Wesley so played knight to d5, already again making use of this tactical resource. Because another question to you guys here, can black now take this knight, and if pawn takes, queen takes, simply win a pawn? Let's have a look at this position. Okay, black cannot do this, because after knight takes, c takes, white is attacking the bishop, so this bishop is not protected, it's a tactical liability, and this pawn is also attacking the knight, so the bishop cannot simply move away, because the knight is also attacked, so black would have to play queen takes. And now after g5, white has the resource of a discovered attack on the queen, and at the same time a mating threat with the queen here. So you can see in this position here, black is able to set up a nice center, but because the bishop wants to retake this pawn here, at the same time the pieces are not really well positioned, and there are little tactical liabilities in the position that white is able to exploit really nicely. Okay, so black is now playing h6 against any knight to g5 and trying to take the poison out of the variations that we have seen. And now imagine you're white to move. Black will consolidate his center. He maybe only needs a few more moves. And once he has done this, this white knight here looks really shaky a little bit. And I mean, it is a resource to have the knight here, but what do you do with this? So in the long run, white seems to be losing his resources. And what should be white's plan now? Making use of these resources and pushing his play forward and gain an advantage. What should be white's plan here? Okay, it's really very instructive to see what Wesley so played here. And before we look at the move, let's have a quick look at the position. So what does white have here? White has this rook. Okay, white also has this knight. And we would really like to use this knight. I mean, it can jump here, but it's not doing much there. It can maybe take the knight here, but there's not really any tactics there. So imagine you have this in the game and you cannot know this knight is nice, but how can you use this knight? And it's very interesting to see that one function that this knight has is actually it could have this pawn advance, because it is protecting this square. And okay, so does this bring anything to us? Well, look at these pawn structures here. Black has 2 pawns and white has 3 pawns against those 2 pawns. So if white could somehow make use of this, maybe the knight could help with this. And you know, it's not really clear that this is going to transform into an endgame where white has a 3-2, but probably this is some part of the resource that white has. And if you look a little bit more closely, you see that a lot of the pieces are somehow developing, are somehow supporting this plan as well. And we can see now with Wesley So's next move, he's revealing his plan almost for the rest of the game. Wesley So played bishop to d2, attempting to prepare the b4 push. And this is really white's plan and is really interesting for me how in a position like this you would identify this plan and how Wesley so did it. Okay, so bishop d2 aims to prepare b5, and if black now played, for example, something like bishop g4, white could already play b4, a takes, and have the two nice pawns here that against this one black pawn can potentially lead to a pass pawn, but also they are very useful in harassing black's light pieces here. So black has the center, but how safe is the center really? If we are able to chase those pieces away, these pawns can also become very weak. Okay, so black saw this and played a4 to try to prevent this plan a little bit. And now again a very interesting move. White played bishop b4. This bishop is blocked by a lot of black's pawns and it doesn't really have so much prospects. And white would be happy to exchange it for this bishop here, or even against this knight. And also there is a little bit of a technical liability here, that if this file ever opens, this rook at the moment is not protected. So if there is some exchange happening, this might be a tactical asset that white could use as well. So let's have a look. Wojtaszek made the decision to take the bishop and allow a takes b. So white does now have a little bit of these two pawns against the bishop. And now Wojtaszek did this already with the idea of now taking the knight as well. And what to do now? What would you play with white? Okay, so played b takes c. With the plan of following up with b4, this knight now has to move, and making use of the fact that this rook is kind of not protected, so if black takes, this rook would be maybe attacked later. Okay, black played knight b4, and the queen attacks the knight, and the knight has no choice but going back, and ends up at the c6 square again. And now white played b4, making use of the fact that this rook here is unprotected. And it becomes apparent that black is still a little bit underdeveloped here. And now have a look at this position here. What really is the key asset that black has, and what is the key asset that white has? And maybe also, if you could choose any color, which side would you prefer? Okay, black's key assets are those two pawns here and the fact that he's controlling the center. He has some problems here on the light squares, and white has a good piece to take advantage of this, but black is limiting the mobility of a lot of white's pieces. And on the other hand, white's major asset is that he has really accumulated these pawns here on this side. And which side would you prefer to take? According to the engine, this position is equal, okay? But there's really a big disbalance in this position. There's really a big disbalance, and it really will come down to the question, how well is black able to make use of his asset, which is these pawns here, and how well is white gonna be able to make use of his asset. So very interesting position. Okay, black played aiming to develop his rook and support the the base of his center, the e5 pawn. Okay, now given white's asset and his pawn structure, and maybe he wants to push these pawns somehow, what do you think is the ideal setup of white's pieces? And based on this ideal setup, what would be your next move? Okay, very interesting. Wesley so played queen b2, And the ideal setup is probably that the queen is here on b2, supporting the push of this pawn, and the knight moves to d2, opening the diagonal for the bishop and also supporting the pawn here on c4. This is probably the ideal setup to advance White's plan, focusing around this asset. Here on d2, this knight also controls the e4 square. Very interesting. So let's have a look. Wojtaszek played bishop g4. And Wesley played rook to e1, protecting the pawn and preparing to move the knight. Black activates his rook to support his center, and knight to d2. Okay, White's pieces have now reached their best setup, and also Black has improved his pieces a little bit. Although it's maybe a little bit unclear what this bishop now is really doing here. Well, it had to develop somewhere, but maybe it's a little bit unclear what's actually the function of this bishop and what's actually the function of this knight. The queen and the rook, it's very clear what they function they perform, but it's maybe a little bit hard to really see Black's plan here. Okay, Black now dropped the bishop back to e6, attacking the base of the pawn structure of White. Maybe Wojtaszek is also now seeing, okay, these pawns might become a little bit more dangerous. But maybe Black also didn't really have such an easy time to find a plan. Wesley So was also much better on the clock, much more comfortable on the clock. And yeah, I think Wojtaszek was struggling a little bit here. Okay, well, White has reached a good setup for his pieces and now plays b5, activating these pawns. The knight has to drop back. It's a pretty sad place for the knight over there, and already now the evaluation is turning a little bit, and something has gone wrong for Black, even though it's nothing too serious yet. Okay, so next question. How can White now activate his knight? How can White reconfigure his pieces to get this knight to a more active position? Okay. Also very interesting. So first there is an operation, so we will look at the next move and then we will see how this knight can be reconfigured, because it's very instructive to see how Wesley So played. First he played queen to b4. The queen is supporting a lot of the pawns here in a lot of ways, and also protecting the c4 pawn, which is attacked by the bishop, so the knight is now free to move. Okay, Black now finally pushes a little bit his pawns in the center. And now Wesley So played knight b3, again making use of the fact that Black is underdeveloped and the rooks are not connected. So it's really nice. The knight is being pushed back, but what can White do with this now? Okay, this knight is sitting here, but White has to find a way to make use of this, because otherwise Black will develop the knight at some point, and then the tactical resource in the position that this rook here can be pinned is not used. So and it gives White is using this resource by using this square that is available to the knight to develop the knight to an active square. So Black is now realizing he has to do something about the knight, plays knight d7, but the connection between the queen and the pawn is now blocked, and White can take advantage of it, taking the pawn and attacking the rook. But now rook a b8. Did White just lose a piece? Have a look at this position. Both the knight is attacked and the bishop attack. Has White just lost a piece? Okay, the answer is no, because rook takes a and rook takes bishop, okay. But now White has the resource c6, attacking both the knight and the rook. And now it's basically a sequence of a lot of moves that leaves White better off. And in this position here already it becomes clear black cannot take this pawn because of rook c8. So the bishop drops back, but still rook c8, takes, and black resigned because there's no way for black to stop this pawn without losing the bishop, leaving white with the one endgame piece up, and this king is too far away. So in this position here, white was already entering into a sequence that was not forced, but it was relatively, well, it was a long sequence that focused around making use of this resource here and led to a position that that white was ending up with a winning endgame. So if you are in this position here with white, you will come to this line if you calculate really what happens after the bishop takes here. And black was probably, he moved the knight, was probably seeing this, but then maybe not calculating so much further after seeing, okay, two pieces are attacked, so white cannot take this pawn. But then if you calculate a little bit deeper, you see that this pawn can actually move forward after this rook takes this pawn because the queen will be protected. And once this pawn can move forward, I at least get the piece back. But also after pieces get exchanged, I am able to bring in the second rook in a way that is so favorable that I'm left up with a one endgame. Okay, so this was, in my opinion, a very interesting game because in this position here, the engine says, and it's really a balanced position. It simply comes down to the two assets, the black center or the white pawns here, and how fast can they be activated. And it really comes down to finding a good plan around this. And we looked at the way to see how do I have to configure my pieces in order to support the asset that I have in my position. And we also saw if black just plays bishop g4 without like such a clear plan, just to drop the bishop back, what a difference it makes if there are so clear assets, if one side really finds a very good plan and the other side maybe does not find such an accurate plan. Then suddenly things happen really quickly. The bishop has to drop back, the knight has to drop back, the queen comes in, the knight develops very quickly to an active square, and there's a tactical sequence that just ends the game. And then suddenly it goes really, really, really quick. So the key position, the key moment is really in this position here, finding queen b2 and identifying a good plan, and then also for black to find an accurate move and an accurate plan. And also in this position here, very interesting to see the resource of maybe this knight could be used to push this pawn, and then I can build an asset. I mean, in this position here, black already, when we said a few moves later, white has the asset of these three pawns and black has the asset of the center. A few moves back, black already did have the asset of the center, so white still had to build his asset. And to go into a position like this and then seeing how you can build this asset with a sequence where along the way you make use of tactical resources that help you get to this position, and then you have this asset to counter black's asset. Those were probably the in my opinion, most instructive moments of the game. Both here to play bishop d2 and find this plan on how to build the asset, and then a bit later here to find the configuration of pieces with queen b2 and knight to d2 to then use this asset. And then, of course, tactics is one of the most important aspects in any chess game. Chess is a very concrete game. Then, of course, calculating the sequence that you can take bishop b7 here and you end up after long force sequence in a one endgame. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned a lot for your practical game. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you get an update from YouTube once a new video becomes available. Thanks a lot.